So let's call our Charter Review Committee meeting to order here. At this time, just welcome everyone. We are going to do introductions. Our meeting is being recorded, audio and video. It's not live streamed, but it's recorded and will be uploaded so that everybody can watch it later. So I would ask you just speak as loudly and clearly as you can in the microphones, but hopefully they'll pick everything up, and then the cameras are going for it. But right now, if we'll go around the table for introduction so that they're on the recording, and then we'll nominate a chair. Chris Lightfoot, the interim city manager.
Corey Langford, moved here originally in 2015. 20 years in the Air Force, retired, and liked it so much I decided to do it as a civilian. So I was appointed by Mr. Warwick, and happy to be a part of the solution here.
Thomas Tucker, moved here in 2021, retired from Human Resources as a HR executive. We've mentioned at meeting with several large companies, the largest probably being Napa, Genuine Parts, and the federal government. Can't be wrong.
Right.
But anyway, Judy Tender nominated me, and happy to help any way I can.
I'm Amy Myers. I'm the city attorney.
I'm CJ. I'm the assistant to Chris, and I've been with the city since March of 2021.
I'm Jamie Mahler. I'm a longtime resident of Glen Haven, ran for seat 4 last election cycle, and want to be involved in our local government, hopefully make some positive changes and move us forward. That's what I've always strived for. So anything I can do to help, I'm here for it.
David Switzer. I've been in Lynn Haven since 2018. I moved here 3 months before the hurricane from the beach. Originally from Phoenix, Arizona. That's home. That's where my wife's family are currently. I was asked to do this by Pat, and happy to lend whatever kind of input I can.
Ryan Gray, I've been a resident since 2020. My professional background is in contract law, primarily with the Department of Defense. And I originally hail from Wisconsin, and I've had 11 years I lived in Colorado and a brief period in New York. And I'm just looking forward to doing my part to provide the residents with a framework for proper governance.
All right, thank you all. At this time, between you five, if you would like to nominate a chair to serve.
I'd like to ask the attorney a question, if you guys don't mind first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were provided the Robert's Rules of Orders. Am I correct in understanding that those are just a guideline and we're not bound to follow them exactly?
That is correct.
Okay, so is it similar to the commission that the chair can have all the same, I guess, benefits as the rest of the committee,
You are a small
including
board.
making motions and seconding motions?
As a small board, the mayor chairperson is entitled to make motions. You do not have to pass the gavel in order to make or second a motion.
Okay, I don't have any other questions unless anyone else does.
No?
All right, I would motion to appoint Corey Langford as the chair.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'll provide my reasoning for that. Corey moderated 2 public forums for 2 of our past elections that I hosted. I believe he did a tremendous job in that. I believe he's very fair, impartial, and professional. And I would look for that in our chairperson on this committee.
And we just need a vote on that. Yes,
Just need a vote.
all in favor? Congratulations, Mr. Langford.
Yes, I'm
Do we also have to appoint a vice chair?
You do, that's the next one.
You just facilitate that from here on out.
Yeah, you'll.
All right, I guess moving on to agenda item number 2, nomination of number 3, See, I'm already screwing up.
It's all good.
Nomination of a
The
vice,
curve.
nomination of a vice chair. Does anybody have a nomination of a vice chair?
I think my opinion is, I don't know who's well versed on this side of things with the charter. I think it's important that whoever that is, that's, so to speak. That's just my only question is, who that pertains to. It's not me. I'll be honest. It's something new to me as far as charter goes.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of self-appointment at all, or self-nomination, but I did, back before the last committee, charter review committee started, I was actually leading a citizen-led group to review the charter when the commission
That's why I
formally
brought it up.
set it up.
So,
So I won't self-nominate though, but I have experience.
I'll nominate Ryan Sprague.
I'll second.
So there's a motion on the floor to nominate Mr. Scray as the vice chair, second by Mr. Tucker. City manager, you call the vote.
Mr. Marlar,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Switzer,
Yes.
Mr. Sprague,
Yes.
and Chairman Langford.
Yes. Alright. So, moving on to item number 4, the ethics, sunshine law, Robert's Rules of Order, charter bylaws. City attorney?
You have been provided in your package a very short summary of the ethics laws. As advisory board members, you are considered public officials that are subject to the state code of ethics. So this is a very superficial summary of what those ethics rules are. If you have any questions, please don't ever hesitate to call me and I'd be happy to talk out your situation with you. Again, you have a very brief overview of Robert's Rules of Order. I wasn't going to go over them with you here, but please review them at your leisure. And if you have any questions, let me know. I do recommend that you keep this document in your binder because there is a nice little cheat sheet here. If things do get divisive and full of conflict, Robert's Rules of Orders can be very helpful to bring order to the discussion. So that's a pretty helpful cheat sheet. And again, as public officials, you are now subject to the Sunshine Law. There is a primer here on what that means in terms of discussing charter business. When any two of you get together in the same room to talk about something that is foreseeably to come before you, the charter in this case, it is subject to the Sunshine Law. You can still go to lunch and talk about sports. You can still go to lunch and talk about any other city business. But if the two of you get together to talk about the charter, you are subject to the Sunshine Law.
Specifically the charter, right? Not
That's the scope of
anything
your
else,
duties.
city business wise.
That's correct. So keep that in mind. Any records you create or receive will be considered public records that you have a duty to retain as a public official and as a custodian. So whether you make them on your phone, I don't know if you'll be given city email addresses or not, but even business related to the charter, proposals you make, considerations, comments you may receive from the public, even received on your private email or as text messages on your phone are considered public records. Do not destroy them. You can send them to CJ if you want her to keep them on the city archive, but you do have a duty to retain those records. You may not dispose of them.
Question?
Yeah.
If we send them to her, do we still have the same retention requirement?
No, at that point, they'll be archived in the city records and you are relieved of that duty.
Okay. And what is the retention period required?
I don't recall. It's going to be 1 to several years.
Okay.
It may depend on the nature of the content. It always depends on the content of the record. So I can't tell you for sure.
Got it. Thank you.
But anyway, just be mindful of that. And those are your duties as a public official in a nutshell.
I did have one question, and this kind of more pertains to the social media. Obviously, that's big today. We've got some social media admins for our local groups here. Could you just kind of give us some guidance or just maybe a broad brush on commenting on one person? Mr. Scray decides to make a post, and then one of us or whatever comment. Could you just kind of go over the rules associated with that?
I appreciate that because I did actually ask her about that
That's a
specifically.
great question. So the first one out of the box wins is my, again, really superficial and trying to keep it simple answer. And the reason for that is that if you make a post on social media and you respond to it, that is considered a meeting in the sunshine. So please be very careful about that. If you are at church and you are talking to someone about your thoughts on the charter, and Ryan walks up. He can stand there and listen, but he can't chime in, because at the point he chimes in, it becomes a meeting. So just be mindful of that. The first one who says whatever's on their mind, you can say whatever you want on your site. You can say whatever you want on your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook page. At the point it looks like it's a dialogue, you are responding to something you saw there. It's considered a meeting, so please
And
be
it's
careful of that.
specific to the charter. though,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So if I, like, for example, I will post the meeting reminders for everyone to see. None of the other individuals in here should comment on that,
Correct.
right? Okay.
So even if it's like an agenda item on what you're posting, we don't.
The sunshine doesn't cover
even if
you
it's in
on
there,
city
like,
business.
Right.
It only covers you on charter amendments.
that's what I mean, like, it has to be specific to the charter though.
Yeah. So if it's related to development order, it's free game for all of us. Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Myers during that? Okay. Moving on to item number 5, approval of the minutes from the December 2nd, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Before I make any motion, I'd like to actually point out that a member of that committee is present, Jerry Parker. I did reach out to her via email, as well as Linda Mishler via other means. I forget which platform I used, to ask them, because it was their committee, if they had any requests or revisions. Neither replied at that time, but if Ms. Parker, if we want to invite her to ask us if she has any revisions before we approve them.
Problem with that?
Ms. Parker, do you have any amendments? You're the only representative, I believe, from the previous charter. Yes. Okay.
I motion to approve them.
Second.
So there's a motion to approve the minutes, second by Mr. Marler. Any discussion? City manager, can you call the vote?
Mr. Scray,
Yes.
Mr. Marlar,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Switzer,
Yes.
Chairman Langford.
Yes. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6, future meeting dates and times. I guess maybe we'll just open it up for discussion. I mean, my initial thought is to align with the commission, what they just passed as well, of a standardized meeting time of 5 p.m. As far as how often that is, I believe the resolution states that at a minimum we have to meet monthly or once a month. So with that, that's just my initial thoughts. I'm not saying that we should only meet once a month, but that's just the minimum that we're required. So I would open it up at this point for discussion.
Yeah, I would like to ask, what is our kind of, I guess, deadline on anything we'd want to bring to the commission for inclusion into the next scheduled general election?
So the commission would need to approve a resolution setting the ballot language for any amendments to the charter by the end of qualifying for the 2027 election. So
So it's February 2027 roughly.
that qualifying is the second week in February generally. I don't know specifically. So ideally, you want to have your recommendations to the commission by January latest so that they can act.
So I mean, basically, that's, if it's monthly, that's 15 meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that we need to prolong it that long, but if we want to expedite, I would be okay with 2 meetings a month. But if we don't want to do 2 meetings a month, I don't see any reason why we can't get it done in 15 meetings.
It's gonna be up to the whole, but I'm good with 2, especially in the beginning. I don't know if we can space it out, start out with 2, start out with 2, drop down to 1 at some certain point, just to get rolling.
Yeah,
and
I'd be good with
That's
that.
up to everybody, obviously, but that's just kind of my consensus.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think shooting for 2 meetings at the start, 2 meetings a month, would be a good start. And obviously we could lean forward and go with 3 if we get into, some discussion or whatever where we need to devote some more time to it. We could increase that to 3, or we could decrease it to 1 if we're just trucking right along. It's completely completely up to everybody.
Kind of where I'm at. No,
I'm retired, so you can have it.
same here.
Yeah, I think just for focus, it'd be nice to do 2 meetings a month to start, and then kind of go from there.
So based on our discussion, does anyone want to make a motion on dates and times?
I'll go ahead and motion to meet twice per month, sticking with our current schedule of Wednesdays at 5 p.m. So that would be the Wednesdays following the commission meetings, I think.
The second and fourth
The
one.
second and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 5 p.m.
So that works with the commission meetings.
Okay.
I have a question. You're going to be, you already know you're going to be out of town. 'Cause I know I'm going to be out of town in January for that first meeting. Just look at my calendar. What's the process, council?
You need to just advise the CJ, and we'll make a motion to excuse.
You just have to have majority, right?
We need a quorum, yeah. a majority
At
for
least
quorum.
3.
Right, I'm sorry, did you say the second and fourth Wednesday at
Yeah,
5?
so to clarify, my motion is to schedule meetings on the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 5 p.m.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor to schedule meetings on Wednesdays, the second and fourth Wednesday at 5 p.m. by Mr. Scurry. There's a second by Mr. Tucker. Is there any discussion?
Is this effective December? Because next Wednesday will be a commission meeting night. It will be the second Wednesday and also a commission meeting night.
It's the Veterans Day that got moved.
Yeah, that moved to the 12th.
So you're talking about would we meet on the 19th, or so today's the 1st, so yeah, I get what you're saying. It would be the
And
the
then
fourth one would be would we
Right.
meet next week, next Wednesday?
there will be a conflict with,
That would not be my intent.
and then the fourth is the day before Thanksgiving,
do-
which may or may not be fine, but
So I'll amend my motion to say effective, the first meeting would be,
December 10th.
correct, December 10th.
What would,
Yeah,
be the
it's
fourth-
gonna have.
what would the date be of the fourth meeting?
Oh, that would be
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve,
Yeah, so
which we could vote at that meeting to just skip, correct? Christmas Eve, yeah.
okay, so there's a, let's see, so there was a motion, there was a second, and Mr. Scurry wanted to go back and amend his motion,
Or clarify, it'll be effective December.
clarify. So based on the clarified motion, is there a second?
Still second.
All right, so based on clarified motion by Mr. Scurry and a second by Mr. Tucker, is there any further discussion? No further discussion, so you may be called vote.
Mr. Spray,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Switzer,
Yes.
Mr. Marlar,
Yes,
Chairman Langford.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 7. Discuss the process and structure of the meetings. And there's 2 sub items under that agenda item. So I guess starting out, I kind of the meeting dates and times almost kind of getting the cart before the horse, but that's okay. I guess what I would offer as a question, I guess, to the committee would be, what do we want as far as how in depth do we want to go as far as the charter review is concerned? And here's why I say that. The commission directed this charter review for a particular item, and that was for to establish the office of the city clerk. Now, we may review the charter in its entirety if that is the case. So I guess, thinking through that, what is the end goal of this charter review? Is it all encompassing? Is it for one particular item, or is it a hybrid of the two, of the one item with maybe some more amendments that may or may not need to be made at this time? So based on that, I'll just kind of open it up for everybody's discussion, just at a wave top level.
So I look at it as we have the responsibility by the commission to absolutely review the city clerk, and that is something we are tasked with bringing them a question to be on the ballot, a standalone question. In addition to that, looking at the last charter review committee, there were items that they didn't get to bring forth because they were limited in the number of items. And also looking at the frequency in which the charter has been updated, it's been very infrequent in Lynn Haven's history. So there's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot of improvements and changes we could consider and look at. So I would like to just go section by section and determine if anyone has anything that they think should be brought forth in a specific section. Once we find out what we all have or want, we can then look at potential ballot questions towards the end on how to package those, similar to the way the last committee did. I mean, I really liked the format that the last committee followed of working through everything and then coming up with the questions. So that's just my thoughts.
I have a question. Did the last committee draft the ballot language first and then the charter amendments, or did they make the changes to the charter and craft the ballot questions
That way.
second? Okay. Okay.
They clarify what was the answer?
They went through the charter first and then.
Right, so similar to what I've just
Yeah,
suggested.
definitely, language is very important.
So I think it's a good point too, and I know that some people in the community have discussed this as well. Like it almost seemed like the residents weren't as informed as far as the pros and the cons of the last changes that were voted on. So I know that we've got a lot of smart people here. We've obviously got a diverse background and experience. Is there, I think there's an opportunity here for us not only to provide the ballot language, but to also provide basically a pros and cons to both, right? Like, hey, this is the change, or this is the change that we're proposing. But then based on that change, just an honest, neutral stance, hey, people that are for this change, this is what they would say. People that are against this change, this is what they would say.
Are you referring to a voter education guide?
Yes, that is the more professional term. But I think it would go a long way with when we provide these proposed changes to the commission, that it provides a little bit more context. Obviously, the chair, I guess it would be me, would get up and brief the commission on these changes. So it would provide a little bit more context that the commission could digest before we're here in a commission meeting. And if they so chose, if they chose to just take that and maybe they add to it, take away or whatever, and then that's sent out in whatever format the city decides to send out as a voter education card with these ballot changes.
Right.
I will add that the city is prohibited from spending any funds on those kind of communications. So your pros and con deliverable can't be sent to all the voters. You can't do radio
It can't
ads.
be
You can't do
sent by the
signs.
city.
Right, can't be sent by the city. That's correct.
Understood.
But it could be sent by an individual.
It could, yeah. The city cannot spend public funds on that.
Does that include the city's marketing, putting it out on their Facebook page?
It does. It does not preclude you from reporting to the commission. It doesn't preclude you from saying whatever you want to on your social media, for saying anything you want to the media for that. It doesn't preclude you from hosting a public forum. It doesn't preclude you from responding in writing to an inquiry you receive. Just preparing materials to distribute on issues coming into a referendum
The city can.
for which public funds are expended is the no-no. So,
But anyone in the community can pay out of their own pocket to disperse such materials.
yeah, this ties the hands of the city.
Mr. Switzer?
I was just gonna say, so are we creating the language that's gonna be on the ballot? Or are we
Yeah.
pushing that up to the commission to,
Initially, we're providing that, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Drafting it
CJ. We're drafting that, we're providing not only the charter change, we're providing the language for the ballot, and then what we're discussing as far as the voter education, that's kind of a tertiary due out, if you will, to the commission, for that. It's not a requirement, it's just something that at least I thought we should discuss and think about.
I think if we do that, I like that. But, you've seen on the ballot where the language is like worded, so it's carefully crafted to look like a yes.
Yeah.
And it's, you might, if you don't read it and understand it, I just
Right.
want to be like a natural language kind of,
Those parameters are set by the
Detail.
supervisor of
They are.
election.
But it's a legal document, right? Even on the
It is.
ballot. So language is very important. That's why we got to be careful.
yes.
You're limited to 75 words in your ballot question and 10 words in your title. And the answer has to be yes or no.
So that's where we got to work with.
I mean, the last committee, they had substantial amount of administrative changes, and they were able to adequately capture the fact that they were making changes to multiple sections and group it into one ballot question. So, I mean, the precedent has already been set there that, citizens of Lynn Haven are, number one, perfectly capable of crafting such language with the assistance of the professionals of the
Oh,
city.
100%,
right?
yeah.
And then also understanding it and voting. So I'm pretty confident that after we move through the amendment, that the five of us can figure out what we needed to say.
Yeah. Another thing, Ryan, that you had said was there were some limitations that the other committee, the previous committee ran into as far as, was it a number of suggestions that they were able to put forward or?
My understanding is that they're limited to 5 questions. I'm not sure what the parameters for that limitation is. Amy, if you don't mind, like, what is is there, I guess, an extra cost to extending the ballot, or like, what are we looking at here?
So assuming that
That's a
there were-
3-seat race that year.
Yeah, so assuming there's extra money for extra pages. So you have the front and the back to work with, and that's for your ballot questions and the candidate races. When you have extra questions that lead to a second page, there is extra cost with printing that second page. I don't know what those costs are. I just know
Understood.
that's the crunch.
So I think that was the limitation, was that there was a concern about, I believe that was a 3-seat race that year as well. And I think that was maybe a driving force, but it would behoove us, in my opinion, to find out what that cost is, so that it's like, okay, if we're gonna add a second page, let's make it worthwhile,
Yeah.
instead of just one question on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that we could think about as far as the parameters of the 5, right? Let's say we come up with 10 things that are really the meat and potatoes, right? Changes that we have. I mean, potentially we could rank those and provide that to the commission. And then obviously the commission is gonna, they're gonna put what their top 5 are. I'm assuming they would take our opinion into consideration, but perhaps we rank our changes and provide that.
And you could also group things together, like if there's changes in 3 different articles of the charter, but they're of similar nature or intent, like cleaning up things that were from the 70s and now it's almost 2030, and we should really be looking at creating a charter that represents a Lynn Haven of 2030 and beyond. Maybe we group like-minded things together into those 4 questions, or go from there.
I think that's the purpose in my mind, to do that. We got an opportunity to look at all of it and see what we can provide to better the city and move it forward. So,
All right, so based on our discussion, what I'm hearing is obviously we're going to address what we were appointed for, which was to establish the office of the city clerk. There's been other discussions about taking a comprehensive look at the charter as a whole. We discussed providing a voter education, due out to the commission, as well as ranking our findings as what we think is the most important. So based on all of that discussion, does anyone want to make a motion as far as the parameters of, or the scope, or whatever, as far as what we're going to look at?
I'd be curious to see how I guess, how the last committee did that, because, I mean, from my understanding is they just, like, we just, obviously for us, we're tasked with the clerk, so that should be our focus up front, is let's talk just clerk. And the section of the charter that only talks, or where the clerk would be. And then from there, we just start at one and work our way down to, I think there's 19 sections.
I don't know that you need a motion for this.
No? Okay.
I think it just by
Just discussion.
a consensus on the order of March, I feel like we'll.
Yeah, as long as, I think we
Start
need to
today.
cover like process and structure, and that may include what we talked about. That's just my next question is, you know, we know where we're going, what we want to do. I think we all agree on it. It's just every meeting we need to have, how do we get there? And I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I don't know how to make a motion, or we don't have to, but
No,
You start with the
what
city
you're
clerk.
saying is-
Let's start with our next meeting, being prepared to talk about what a new provision on the city clerk and then what other charter provisions need to be touched to make
Okay.
that effective. And then when you're done, or at least satisfied, we can start from section 1 and go through that way.
Question on the city clerk. How detailed or in the weeds do we need to get with the position and the responsibilities? Does this committee have to get?
It's up to you. I think you
I
have a
think we
lot
need
of
to-
freedom to decide that.
I personally think we need to define out exactly what the role of a clerk in the neighborhood will be. Because
sure.
we'd already defined the roles and responsibilities of the commissioners and city manager, so why wouldn't you do the same? Like what you see in city manager, that's to me, is the bare minimum of the clerk, is we would define that out, the role of the clerk, you know, what their responsibilities are, and also, you know, any kind of, I guess, not really responsibilities, but, trying to think of the right word here. Like leeway that they have, you know, because like,
You can, it will be a robust discussion because there are two ways you can do it. You can keep it very generic. You can create a charter office of the city clerk with very generic but fundamental duties. You may also make it specifically so that it is finance-based or it is a subject area-based expertise, depending on what you want the role of that city clerk to be. So there are two possible directions. One is very broad and one is very specific.
so if you go broad though, are you basically just giving the decision to whatever commission of flavor at that year to decide what that clerk does?
Yeah, it would be up to the commission to decide, we need somebody who's really well-versed in finance, or we need somebody who's really well-versed in HR, or we need somebody who's really good at records management.
Versus if we define out the actual core duties of the position, like many other cities do that have clerks.
A job description almost.
Right.
Both approaches are valid. It's just up to you what you want.
I think one thing to keep in mind here is obviously there's a hiring process currently ongoing for a city manager. And I know that the commission is discussing, looking at, or whatever, the roles and responsibilities of that city manager based on, or at least the expectation of, there would be a city clerk. I'm not trying to speak for the commission. I'm just saying that as we think through this, is that, you know, I feel like by the time we're done here, and this obviously goes to the ballot, the city manager will have already been hired for the city. So how do we align what the current commission's hiring of the future city manager is based on our roles and responsibilities that we're trying to outline for a city clerk? I think it's kind of, we might kind of be speeding if we get too far into the weeds of what those roles and responsibilities are.
Yeah, I
Great
think
question.
And that, starting with the city clerk first, because it will require you to strip or at least amend the job description of the city manager. So I feel like starting with that recommendation to go to the commission first for them to review would be wise, and potentially even having a joint workshop of all of you once they can consider, these are your recommendations for a city clerk, this is what it's going to mean for the city manager.
do you mean asking like what they see as the roles and responsibilities of a clerk?
Yeah, if they agree with the direction you're taking, because it will require amendment to the charter regarding the responsibilities of the city manager, so you don't get too far ahead of them. But ultimately, if those go to the ballot and they get approved, you will have a city manager in place, and I think it will be up to that city manager whether he's going to accept the revision of his role, because he will still be a charter officer subject to those responsibilities as they have changed, and he can accept them or not, or she. But I wouldn't worry about that part yet.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
start with the city clerk and how you envision it, so we know how the dominoes fall for the city manager.
And then the 2027 commission that gets partially elected that year can figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like,
Because
it
it'll
feels
be
like that's a
if it
hot,
passes or
hot
not.
button topic, because it's like, and I think the more detailed we are, not that we have to get real mired in the weeds, but like something simple, like who are they gonna report to? Are they actually reporting to the manager or the commission? I don't know, that's been kind of like a big,
No, they should report to the commission as a
Yeah, I
chartered
think
officer.
based
Oh,
on the way the commission passed that, it was, I understood it as their,
Maybe another at-will at commission.
yeah, they're at will of the commission, the same as the manager or the attorney.
Right.
So it's a third at will position that reports directly to the commission.
Yeah, which I agree with.
So to me, it's like, okay, what position description does the city clerk or the city manager have that's clerk related that we take out, right? And start there and then find out what, I mean, a lot of the duties, if you research city clerk, a lot of the duties are what CJ does as well. What's her job description? Add that in, or portions of that. And then to me, that's like the baseline of what the clerk would be. And then we can get into like, what other duties are they gonna have? You know, it's like auditing and just different things like that.
I think it's a perfect starting point. We can go from there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of good discussions, which us solving that or cracking that nut, whatever we want to call it first, probably is underscored by the fact that the commission is wanting to move forward with a city manager hiring, and they'll be able to outline that. So I think probably that our next meeting, like you say, we will come prepared to discuss that item first.
Specifically.
Yeah, and then I foresee probably after our next meeting, we'll need to schedule a workshop with the commission to at least, bounce some ideas off or get some guidance there as far as what the expectation is from us regarding that. So,
Yeah, I would actually ask if the city's able to provide the five of us with the city manager job description. I mean, I know there's what's in the charter, but like what was posted out for the employment opportunity, right? And then also if the employment opportunity for CJ's role was being advertised, what would that look like? So we can try to find what I was talking about, the clerk related duties that she performs.
It's middle ground.
What her job description is right now?
Well, yeah, because I want to see what the clerk related duties that she does are. I'm
Okay.
sure there's things she does that are the clerk's not going to do, but there's got to be some overlap because a lot of clerks literally do what she's doing right now for us.
Okay.
So
I would also ask if staff could provide the language of, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the old charter allowed for a city clerk, but then this recent charter did not, or am I misremembering that?
I don't have any historical knowledge of that. I'll have to do.
No.
to my knowledge,
So
the
beyond
previous,
the current one.
to my knowledge, the previous charter before the last amendment had it as two separate roles, and they were combined into the city manager clerk role. There just wasn't a clerk because, and this is just my personal interpretation of reading it, Lynn Haven wasn't a city of a substantial size that necessitated having two separate people fulfill the role.
Right.
Well, that charter amendment before the last one in 2023 was done probably before I was born, I would guess. So, I mean, that's a very different Lynn Haven than today. So,
Are you saying you want
So-
to look for the old
Yes.
version of the charter?
Yeah, number one, I wanted to verify that I was not misremembering. So
I remember
at least somebody
seeing
else
it in
did.
there.
So I guess the ask would be, could we get the old verbiage from the previous charter that quote unquote allowed a clerk, just so we can at least have it available to us to see what it was, and then obviously we can kind of go from
So
there.
the pre-2021 update of.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
it would effectively be the version that was given to the last committee. The version that they were handed at the beginning is the version we're talking about.
Okay.
Let me ask another question. Maybe this is just a reinventing the wheel type question. Would it do us any good to get position descriptions or whatever's in a charter of, say, like a Panama City? see what they say. Not
Oh,
that it's the
I
best.
absolutely intend to look at other cities' descriptions.
I've already
I
been
already
looking,
have.
yeah.
I've been looking at it as well, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're okay just looking
Oh,
at that. Just throw out what's not good.
You will see that there
I
are
think we have
general,
12 pages.
some,
I've
a lot of
seen
cities
20,
do
I've
it the
seen
same way, and
25.
that no two cities do it exactly the same way. You have to decide what fits, but it will give you a good sense of what the possibilities are.
Yeah, because I've seen like Callaway had one, didn't have one, had one. Panama City has two. So it's a strange little animal out there, but I agree with
Yeah,
what
we want
Ryan's
to take the
saying.
best of all and
Take the
leave all the
best.
garbage behind, so we're the best.
Well, your vision for what Lynn Haven is needs to drive the conversation of what your city clerk
Correct.
looks like. Because what's right for Panama City is not necessarily right for Lynn Haven.
That's true. I'm just looking at the verbiage that's in there and what we would use, if it's good for.
It will give you some good ideas and a good sense of what's possible.
We may need to add some stuff, that's my whole point. Like I said, I've seen cities, and it has to be comparable size, but we have, I think, 12 pages. I've seen 20, 25. I don't know what all it is, I haven't read through all of it, but it just made me pause and go, huh.
Well,
Am I
it
missing
depends, it depends on the
something, or-
form of government, it depends on how specific, and it depends on the community. And
Right.
there are some strange provisions that are very unique to certain communities
Yeah.
because that's what they care about.
That's true.
And that's actually a good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Amy. We really, I mean, I've been looking mostly at cities that have city manager, council, or commission, depending on where you're at, is what they call it. But forms of government that way that incorporate a clerk, because if you look at like a strong mayor city government, to what that clerk does may not really align with what we do. So I've been kind of not avoiding it completely, but I've been giving more merit to cities that have similar forms of government as us.
So the city of Parker or the city of Springfield, those are strong mayor governments.
Right.
And so the role of their city clerks is going to look very different than the role of the city clerk in Lynn Haven, Panama City Beach, Callaway, Panama City.
That makes sense.
And I've even looked into other states too. Like a lot of people look at Florida, and I'm like, there's 49 other states that you got resources and that you could look at too. So
I do think that what Ryan has brought up, we spend the first however long it takes to review the clerk position and what
Oh, yeah.
we think. And before we even go into the other 12, 19 priorities,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it.
right, because what Amy said is we want to get whatever we're going to do for the clerk back to the commission as quickly as possible, because that may influence what they decide for city manager. Like if you have somebody that has a strong clerk background and there's a high possibility that this goes to the, I mean, it's guaranteed possibility that it goes to the ballot, and it potentially a high possibility that it passes, that candidate that has a high clerk background may not be the suitable candidate, because you'd be replacing the city manager in a year and a half or 2 years or whatever at that point.
So good discussion on kind of what we're, I think everybody's in agreement what the next, our next meeting is going to focus on. Is there any questions as far as what that entails? Okay.
I mean, I'm not against just getting into the nitty gritty now. I mean, it's only been 43 minutes. And, I mean, are we limited and not? I mean, obviously we need some resources, but it would be, there's not much left on the agenda, and I would prefer to just make the most of our time and start talking in more detail if you guys are open to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I'm here till 6:30, so.
so can we just, I guess before we get started then, Miss Myers, do you mind just pointing to us where exactly in the charter, paragraph section or whatever, that prevents us from having a clerk?
I don't know that there's a charter provision that prevents you from having a city clerk. I think the purpose of this exercise will be to establish the position of city clerk. So, right out of the box, and what I gather from this conversation is, do we want to recommend that there be created a new charter office of a city clerk? And just from the conversation I've heard already, I think very much, yes, we do want to recommend that. So then it's, what do we want this position to do? And go from there. There is no,
So would it incorporate into section 21 officers and departments?
it's going to be in two places. I think with regard to what it looks like is going to be the duties of the city manager But yes, the new charter office will be there with where the city attorney and the city manager clerk are now listed. Is where you will create it, but there's no text for you to jump off of.
Right.
So I think
There
starting,
used to be though.
so I think starting in section 21 is where we establish that a city clerk would be and to whom that person reports to. And then we go into, after section 21, I believe it would be somewhere around, 26.
26 should be,
Between 26 and 27 would be, us outlining the position itself, and then followed by the responsibilities of that position. Is that what everybody else has said that?
yeah,
Yeah, to a point, I would question though, in 21 though, it says officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of, so obviously just by title, that will say city clerk somewhere in that mix. And then, it goes on to talk about appointing, department heads and such, which we can get into later, but in that section, I would think that we would need to talk about the city clerk's role in being appointed by the commission, and also what their roles and responsibilities could be in the event of any such absences, because it says in here, in the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the mayor commissioner may make such appointments. Is that, I mean, we just need to think about those things as we go through section 21.
So in terms of the architecture of what that looks like, I would recommend that you actually look at the end of this article as being the two places where you establish the office of city clerk. So what's now section 29 has to do with the qualifications of the city attorney. I think that can easily go into section 28. So that your section 29 can be dedicated to appointment of a city clerk, and your section 30 can be an enumeration of what their duties are.
Question there, you said moving what's in 29 to 28. Do we not have to keep 28 reserved because there was once something there?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Is there any prohibition from doing like 27A, 27B? So we could really move 29 up to a 27.
You may ultimately want to restructure this entire charter depending on how far you go. But if we're just looking in Article 3 right now, giving yourself the freedom of two sections, you've got
Yeah.
it built in right here that I think you can use without disrupting any other part of the charter if there's nothing else you do.
Right, because my thought is just, I mean, I'm not trying to overhaul everything, but why do you say, like, for example, city attorney, and then 2 sections later, you talk about their qualifications? Put that up with the rest of it,
And I think that's why it's divided the way that this is because the duties of the city attorney were squinched together. And so where they were divided out into 3 or 4
So
potential
28
sections.
may have been something related to the city attorney before? Is that what you're?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
But just reorganizing, I don't think there's any rule against that. Reserving it is just to keep the numbering structure intact.
But what I'm hearing is basically we want what looks like 27, but for a clerk.
You want a 27 to establish it and potentially, so
28,
a section 30 in my mind for functions and responsibilities. So 24 where you've got your city manager appointment qualifications.
Or just
And
2
then-
subparts under a section, establish it and responsibilities all in one.
Essential job functions and the responsibilities.
Got it.
So why don't we start with section 21, the verbiage in 21 first, before we start solving the actual duties and responsibilities. So again, I kind of see this as a way top level of establishing a clerk, who the clerk reports to, and then finally, who serves as the clerk if the clerk becomes incapacitated or whatever. I think I see those as a three problem or 3 challenges rather that we need to solve for section 21.
Sorry, could you repeat those for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. So section 21, focusing on number 1, establishing the office of city clerk. The line of effort number 2 would be to establish who the clerk reports to, whether it's the commission or the city manager. Line of effort number 3 would be to outline who fills in the city clerk position should the city clerk become not available, whether it's due to termination or
It's just vacant.
incapacitation or whatever. So kind of with that thought process, focusing on section 21, is there any discussion as far as those three lines of effort?
I'm good with that. I think the first one is pretty easy because you just
That's what I
include
was-
city clerk as one of the titles in that list.
Yeah, you just put it in.
I think the number 2 is pretty easy on your list too, because just like the attorney, we just will insert language which we can discuss and agree on, but we insert a sentence that is effectively states that the city clerk will report to the commission. I think number 3 is maybe where we need to have more discussion, because I'm not trying to increase the city payroll by a whole bunch of having a backup, like how long does it take if at that point we're talking, is it a temporary absence, like a vacation? Okay, we need to talk about that. Is it a extended absence? Okay, do they need to talk about replacing at that point, So I think the first 2 are easy though.
So is it smart to make a motion for the first 2 lines of effort, get that problem solved, discuss the third one, make a motion for the third one, get that solved, and then we solve the duties and responsibilities at the next meeting?
I do want to raise a concern before a motion, though, is that it does in the officers and departments enumerated, it lists the city attorney, but it doesn't in that actual section say where the city attorney reports to that I can see, unless I'm just completely missing it.
No, it's in
That's on section 27.
Right, so really we need to move number 2 of Corey's list, or Chairman Langford's list, down to
It's its own section.
its own section, and so really we just need to put at that point, it's like, this one simple motion would be like, I motion to add city clerk to section 21, after city, or before city attorney, so it would read, officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of a, city manager, comma, city clerk, comma, city attorney, and then the rest of what's already present there. So you just move city manager up to the front, city clerk second, city attorney third, and then proceed forward. Do I need to reword that for you, CJ?
So to add the title city clerk after city manager.
Yes, moving city manager to the first title, adding city clerk after the city manager title, and then continuing the list from there.
So I'm famous for asking dumb questions. We've kind of got a lot of things in a series here, right? And the next sentence says the heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager. So where I was going with that is, as far as putting it in this paragraph, was because of that. I don't want there to be any sort of, I don't want anyone to read that and have to decipher, well, does the city manager appoint the city clerk, or no, we're going to make it painfully
Like,
evident.
it's obvious.
Yeah. So my point where I'm going with that is that we need to make sure that no one can get confused that the city clerk, the city clerk is not a department head.
Right.
So let me ask you, but
Yes, sir.
yes, go.
No, I'll withdraw my motion until we further discuss.
So from the legal side, are you considered an officer or a
I am.
department head?
I'm considered an officer,
So we can make this easy then.
A and B.
Because it says every department head.
Okay.
If we make the city clerk an officer as the
Takes that out.
attorney, as the,
Not squash it, no.
squashes it all.
Yeah, and I think that's a great, look there, we have the HR background here. Perfect. So, yeah, I'm okay with that as long as we state, hey, the following positions are department heads and the following
Yeah.
positions are officers. Department heads report to the city manager, officers report to the commission.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Very simple.
So I kind of just took that out of the charter just now and kind of reworded it so it would make sense to me. And what I'm kind of hearing and reading is that the first sentence would be officers of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of a city manager, city clerk, and a city attorney. Department heads of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of a police chief, fire chief, public works director, finance director, and those departments as established by ordinance. That's two separate sentences. Nothing else has been changed at this point.
Okay. I think I don't know, maybe if everyone else is okay with it, I think we just go to the next sentence and then we continue massaging this until we get it right. And then after that, we'll make a motion to approve or not approve or whatever, the verbiage in 21.
Like that.
So with that, I think the next sentence would be, sorry, we're gonna huddle around here.
Oh, it's all good. It says, the heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager with the advice and consent of a majority of the commission. In the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the mayor or commissioner may make such appointments if it is deemed necessary or expedient by the majority of the city commission. And in either event, such appointment shall be made with the advice and consent of the majority of the city commission. I would like to ask here for a clear legal definition of what advice and consent includes. Because to me, advice means you're asking an opinion, an input, and consent means approval. And to me, approval means a vote in the city commission on the agenda in public.
So in my opinion, is different. I think this language creates a duty, the advice and consent puts a duty on the city manager to seek that advice and that consent. I do not read it to mean that it requires formal action of the commission, because other language in your charter says the commission shall. And here, the appointment authority, particularly to hire and fire, is given to the city manager in section 26. So to make them both make sense, to give both sections meaning, to keep the authority of the city manager intact to appoint, but also to give that advice and consent. To me, I read that to mean an obligation that is put on the city manager to seek out every single commissioner and say, I plan to hire this person, get their feedback, and to not act to appoint that person unless he has the head nod from 3 of them.
How is that not a walking quorum?
They don't have the authority to act otherwise. They're outside of their lane if they choose to exercise that authority. That's what they have given to the city manager.
Kind of the way I read it.
I would like this sentence, I would like to revisit this later after I look and see what other cities do in regard to department head appointments. And if it's an actual vote, is it something in the consent agenda, or is it like what you're describing where it's like, hey, are you good with this? Yeah. And if they don't get a bunch of pushback, they just do it.
Well, I mean, the commission is not fully without authority. If he acts
Well, yeah, but
contrary
there's
to their
always
wishes, they can always fire
But
him.
always, that's always going to be present.
Yes, absolutely. But that is their recourse. They control the city manager.
Which, I mean, at that point, why even have the sentence is my next question.
I agree, but like she said, it's there whether it's written or not.
I don't know how else to give it meaning.
Yeah.
Because that authority is given to the city manager.
So I'll kind of, and I'm glad you brought this up, because if you wasn't going to, I was going to. And I hear what Ms. Myers says, but the key word that throws this off for me is majority. How do we establish majority?
Right.
Majority is established when votes happen. All right. Now, just pin that for a second. I look at this, and I'm not a very smart guy, so I have to come up with analogies. But I look at this like the president appoints or nominates, rather, either a cabinet, a Supreme Court justice, what have you, right? Once that happens, those individuals go before who to be confirmed? They go before Congress. Congress votes to either confirm or not confirm. So the way I look at this is that, and I don't like that we're even having to have this discussion or having this discussion, because there's potential variances the way that it could be read. It should be very clear. So I look at that advice and consent. The city manager wants to hire a police chief. The city manager reviews all of the resumes, determines who's the most qualified based on their hiring matrix or however they choose to hire that individual. And the city manager goes to the commission and says, here's my person. I need you all to, here's how I got to this answer. Here's my scoring mechanism. Here's my matrix. Whatever, I need your all's consent through vote by majority to hire this individual. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because I have a question about this then too, is so let's say current interim city manager is unavailable for whatever reason, and we need to have a police chief appointed. Does, according to our charter, the mayor commissioner can make the appointment with the advice and consent of the rest of the commission? How does he get that without doing it at a meeting?
So
And a vote.
he can only be delegated that power by the majority of the commission.
So they would
that
have to
has
vote to
that
give
has
him
to-
that power.
They do,
So
and that has to happen in a public meeting. There's no question about that.
I have a thought here, if you guys will entertain it. To me, the list of department heads, the most important two are police chief and fire chief. In the case of an emergency, those are two critical department heads, with the commission then making the third person, the city manager. That's your trifecta of law, order, safety, security in the city. So my thought is perhaps we propose putting in language that the police chief and fire chief appointments be confirmed, kind of like what Corey was saying with Supreme Court justices, with confirmation by majority of the commission. All other heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager with the advice of the full commission, but get rid of that consent part. And then we can go on further to talk about if the city manager is not available.
I don't
What
know
you're
that.
saying, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Tucker.
So what you're saying is that Mr. Lightfoot wants to hire a police chief. We have a vacancy, and he brings that chief, he found his person, brings it to the commission. Commission either yays or nays
Right.
that person.
Three
We're
people
not
vote
gonna get
yes.
into, I want to look at the resumes and everything else.
No, just he says, this is my nomination, and they bring it to a vote. There's just, I mean, they can discuss stuff if they want, like, they have that
You
right.
can verify.
Right, and they can bring it to a vote. Of course, there's public commentary because it's a vote, but they bring it to vote, and three of them say yes, they're confirmed, that department head's now in place. But only for police chief and fire chief, for the reasons I aforementioned.
I don't think that we need to place certain department heads above others as far as importance. I understand what you're saying, but you could also argue that the finance director is equally important, right? We don't want the city to go broke or have inaccurate strategic advice, right? We don't want the public works director to be horrible because our toilets can't flush. I mean, so what I see is all department heads are equally as important, right? So I would be a fan of standardizing the
Yeah.
process, and taking it to a vote. Now, to your question about looking at resumes or whatever, I wouldn't expect a commissioner to vote in favor of or against a hiring if they didn't have at least some level of insight as to how the city manager got to that decision.
And I agree with you.
Right.
What I'm saying is I'd hate for them to say, well, did you look at other candidates? We don't want to go down that rabbit.
No. I don't think the intent would be that there's a microscopic or rather a micromanagement put on that, but I think it's rather we look at it glass half full of we're adding checks and balances within our form of government through the charter.
So it's not just giving full power to the city
Yeah,
manager.
and I'm not against having it be all. I mean, it's not like it's going to be like every agenda. Well, it better not be every agenda that this is happening, right? This is something that should happen periodically because,
Every now and again.
yeah, somebody retired or somebody left because of their own reasons or whatever. So something like all heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager with confirmation made by majority vote of the commission.
Yeah.
And then again, we still go on to talk about absences, which I'm frankly fine with the absence language. I just think we make it its own sentence instead of being a paragraph long run-on sentence.
It's a terrible sentence.
Yeah.
Uh,
So instead of
If I could
advice,
take a breath, it's a bad sentence.
What was it? So you replaced advice and consent.
All
with
heads of each,
confirmation.
yeah, all heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager with confirmation made by majority vote of the commission. So that aligns with kind of what Chairman Langford was saying about, the Supreme Court appointees and confirmation by Congress. So I look at commission as Lynn Haven's Congress. I'm glad they passed a budget.
So we're at, I believe, the point where we need to outline who the officers report to, correct?
Again, chapter 26 puts the city manager as the one who's in charge of all subordinate employees. And other sections, I think, are pretty clear that the city attorney, at least, and the city manager serve at the pleasure of the city commission and only report to them. Your city clerk will need to report to your commission, and that should be made clear in the language establishing it.
In the new article that we create.
Okay. So then,
Because we already cleared up that department heads of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of, and the city manager shall appoint department heads.
got it. So, sorry, is it possible to make a request to have a, like he's got his computer up, right? If we could have a computer with, because I see this as more of a working group than a quote formal type of meeting, to have like a display, so we can all see the verbiage, because my brain doesn't work.
So,
I'm a visual guy.
And I will tell you too, I'm drafting charter amendments right now as you speak. I know you are too. but
I don't mind working off of like a city provided laptop that's just for this. It's just how I function, because this is how I function at work. I redline contract terms all day, and so this is what works for me.
No, I get
So
it.
However, it is,
Whether
we
it's your
can have
phone or
your,
laptop.
we can have your display.
If they
up
can
on
share
a-
my screen, I'm fine with that, or I can, after every meeting, send copies so that you have a working draft to say, I don't like this language, I don't like this language, and I will
Yeah, we can
amend in real
discuss it
time
then.
as we
Yeah,
discuss.
I think that's fine for now. If in the future I tease, I don't want it during this meeting. I don't
No,
want
no,
to
no,
talk
not
about it.
now. but like-
If we can present,
So you want Amy's computer with the working changes? on
that
the
would be
screen?
great.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you can see the
appreciate
progress.
that.
as
Yeah.
we go.
because that way I don't derail something with something we've already solved. And
We want to do as much as we can do with the time we
Yeah,
we're given.
it also has the added benefit of everyone that's in attendance can see
Can
too.
see,
Right.
if they can't hear them necessarily.
Right.
So with those initial 3 lines of effort, have we solved all 3 of those so far with section 21, or at least the first 2?
Definitely the first one, in my opinion,
Job description,
but where they report to and who performs when available, I don't think we've technically covered those fully because we
kinda what
haven't
I
gotten
was
to the
thinking.
new section.
Right.
So I did draft language to establish the position of city clerk when the commission first discussed this idea. They didn't act on it, but it was my understanding that it would be provided to you as a jumping off point. So I can send
Yeah.
you that, what that looks like. It's not.
Gooder
meant-
place to start.
It's not, it's not meant to lock you in. It's just
Yeah.
meant to be a place to start.
Yeah.
So I will send you that too.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Like I said, I think tonight it's smart to solve section 21, and then, by taking that jumping off point, as you said, giving us something to digest over the next couple of weeks before our next meeting, and I think we'll be a little bit more productive once we get to that section outlining those roles
sure.
and responsibilities.
And I believe we have this resolved section 21 because we established the clerk position there in 21. The other 2 items that you brought up are moving to that future section.
Right. So based on section 21, I think we need to, just for version control here, we're gonna go with you, Miss Amy.
Okay.
However, we need to do that, whether you read
I'll
it.
check it with, I can check it with Ryan, or I can read it to you right now.
Yeah.
Or I can share my screen with each of you as we go around.
mean,
Well, at this point, you can just read it off.
Yeah, you can read it. I
All
can
right.
listen faster.
So I have divided section 21, I will say, into 3 sections, into an A, B, and C. Section A reads, officers of the city of Lynn Haven shall consist of a city manager, city clerk, and city attorney. B, the department heads of the city of Lynn Haven shall be the police chief, fire chief, public works director, finance director, and those departments as established by ordinance. C, the heads of every department shall be appointed by the city manager, subject to confirmation by a majority of the commission. No other changes have been made.
Do we need to say vote? I have majority vote.
Confirmation to me
Confirmation
does,
That's
Okay.
pretty much the same.
it does signal
Can
formal
you,
action to me, but I can do whatever you want.
In C, I believe it said the heads of every department was the beginning, correct?
Yeah, the heads of every department
Heads of
shall
every
be.
department.
What was, can you go back and read A on how we described the department heads?
Okay, so I did it in B. The department heads of the city of Lynn Haven shall be.
Shall consist of is what I had.
Okay, I can do that. Shall consist of.
So, what did you just say? I'm sorry.
Shall consist of.
Okay. So where I'm going with that is standardization of lexicon. If we could say department heads in both of those instead of department heads in one paragraph and then heads
The
of
heads of every
department.
department? Okay,
Yes,
sure.
ma'am.
So it says department heads in both B and C.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna
Just
take
making
out
your
B.
statement. The department heads. Meeting heads of the department.
I'm gonna take out that too. So I'm actually taking out the heads of each and every and just starting with department head shall be appointed.
Same.
So that was, so we got through A, B, and C there, right? In section 21.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Ryan's words were about, the confirmation made by majority of a vote of the city commission.
Okay, so
I'm okay with
confirmation
keeping it
by a
as by majority of the commission because you said the definition of confirmation in this context implies a vote.
Yeah. But if I get fired and somebody else has a different interpretation you want to guard against.
I
you
would
can
love
say-
to have the word vote in there if
Okay,
nobody
yeah.
objects.
Confirmation vote.
Yeah, definitely needs to vote, the word vote.
Made
needs
by
to be in.
majority vote of the commission.
Because it could portray like, they're all like, okay.
Yeah,
They all
not
confirmed when I
Mayor,
asked
yeah,
them.
you like,
they got a nod and a smile.
Okay, subject to confirmation by formal majority vote of the commission.
So what I kind of see here happening, again, this is where we kind of muddy the waters between a working group and a formal Robert's Rules of Order, motion or whatever. Maybe if, someone takes the screen and we read that and that's the motion, or how do we need to do
No,
this?
let me distribute this on paper, and
Okay.
then at your first order of business at your next meeting could be everyone's reviewed it, everyone
you could
agrees,
vote
let's
on
do a
it.
motion to
Yeah.
approve.
So, yeah, we like,
You said you had A, B, and C, so the rest of C, was that in absence?
Yeah,
And then,
that terrible sentence.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
D would we have a D and that be nothing here and shall be construed to prevent the city manager?
If you had a D, that would be
Yeah.
what your D would be,
I
yeah.
also don't like this absence sentence, and I'd love to discuss it if everybody else would entertain it.
Yeah, and we're in section 21.
In the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the mayor commissioner may make such appointments if it is deemed necessary or expedient by the majority of the city commission. And in either event, such appointment shall be made by approval of the majority of the city commission. I just feel like that's a lot of words to say something that could be said a lot shorter.
So from my notes of the last charter change, in the absence of language was added by the last committee and approved. But it does sort of muddy everything that comes after. So I think it can be cleaned up, but I think the reason it looks so long is because it's a new phrase that was plugged in.
it's a little long-winded, but
In the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the commission may make such appointments by majority vote.
The mayor commissioner.
I mean, at that point, any commissioner could motion, but they need support of their fellow commissioners regardless.
So what I think this is trying to do is to delegate to the mayor the authority to hire somebody.
Yeah.
But it's also requiring the entire commission to make that delegation. It also then, in my mind, puts a obligation, as written now, on that mayor to get the advice and consent of the other commissioners. There's no way for him to do that outside of the sunshine.
But we're a city manager commission government, and to me, the chair, regardless of who's sitting up there, is a commissioner, and the extra duties they have is that of a chair. And so they should be working as a collective to make these decisions. Now, if the commission of the time wants to say, hey, we're gonna vote and we're gonna appoint you to go out and work with the city to field whatever resumes or whatever, fine, but I just don't see the necessity for us to make it so explicit in this sentence
I would also like
that
to
it has to be the mayor.
suggest too, that I see the mayor given this delegation when there is no assistant city manager or deputy city manager. Here in Lynn Haven, you have an acting city manager, a deputy city manager, an assistant city manager, whatever you call them. And so in my mind, it makes that delegation to the mayor less essential if you do have a problem with it.
All right.
I see. I kind of am a fan of the intent behind the way it's currently written. I'm not saying that it's written well. I'm just saying that I think that I'm not saying that we don't have competent deputy city managers or competent people. What I'm saying is that when we start hiring department heads, when you get outside of that city manager, quote, appointing that individual, I think I would rather have the commission be responsible, and maybe we'll hear from the public on this, you know, as far as what everybody else wants. But I don't think it's bad to, in other words, I think placing the responsibility on the mayor commissioner is fine, because let's be honest here, the entire commission is going to vote. So it's not like the mayor commissioner is going to hire this individual regardless, right?
No,
It's
it
still
has to
going
be a
to
majority vote.
right? But it places the responsibility, like this person's unavailable, whose responsibility is it? It's the mayor commissioner to bring that before
Right.
the commission, right? I think to remove yes, the mayor is a commissioner as well, but I think we just need to identify that one individual who it is, and I think it should be the mayor commissioner.
Right.
The sentence goes on really a long way around your elbow, so to speak, saying that the mayor can make this if he or she feels like it's expedient and
If the whole
necessary.
commission decides it's necessary.
Then they take it to, if the commission, then it takes it to the commission.
Correct.
So what if we condense it to say, in the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the mayor commissioner may make such appointment by approval of the majority of the city commission, period. I didn't take anything out of,
What was the may? Can you read back the word may?
the mayor commissioner may make such appointment by approval of the majority of the city commission. It gives them the option to.
So they don't have the option to. We have to hire a department head.
Well, technically, depending on what department it is, the city manager in the very next sentence could act as that head of the department if the commission also is okay with that.
Well, remember, the whole reason that we're here is because the city manager's absent. So if the city manager's not there, they can't serve as department head,
I understand that.
right? So the city manager's not there.
So shall, just
Yes.
say shall.
Yeah, just change may to shall, and that drives home the requirement for the mayor
Yeah, I like that.
to
So,
to
final
drive that.
sentence being, in the absence of an appointment by the city manager, the mayor commissioner shall make such appointment by approval of the majority of the city commission.
Shall make such appointment with approval of the majority of the city commission?
By
By vote.
By
approval,
approval.
It's got to be by vote, right? Let's marry it up. What was the other one?
by formal majority vote. Of the city
Do
commission.
you want me to do the subject to confirmation by to mimic the language exactly?
However we said it before.
Okay.
All right.
That I just want to make sure they match. Whatever our
Sure.
lexicon
It
is.
came down to the commission, like each word.
Yeah.
So yeah, so mayor commissioner shall make such appointment with confirmation made by formal majority vote of the commission. It's the same lexicon as the previous sentence. We'll have public commentary, I think, right there.
Yeah.
And then the only other section I have with that being D would have been E, would have been the final sentence allowing the city manager to act as head of any department if the commission accepted so. And I don't think that needs to change at all, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think we've pretty much solved the section 21. At least we're at a pretty solid point to review that next meeting
Right, right, right.
and move forward with that section. So barring is there any further discussion on section 21, or does everybody feel like we're at a good quote stopping point to review that for the next meeting?
Yeah, I would like to invite some public commentary because I know there's some people interested on this before we have a final version that she has us all review.
Right. So
To save us the effort of having to do the same thing next meeting.
yeah, so the item 8 is obviously we're going to get into discussing what the public engagement methods that we want are for subsequent meetings. And then obviously item 9 would be public commentary, and we'll address what you're talking about
Okay.
in the next item, because I definitely think there's some discussion there. But as far as section 21, this is not final. This is living and breathing until somebody makes a motion, it seconds, and then we pass it or whatever. So are we good so far on that?
Nothing.
Yeah, I'm good with distribution of amongst us all to review for the next meeting.
All right, so moving on to item number 8, discussion, to discuss public engagement methods. So you bring up a good point there, right? We're here trying to figure all of this stuff out. And it's gonna get to a point to where, we're gonna start moving section by section, that we're gonna get to a point where we're like, yep, we're all happy with what that is, move to the next one, so on and so forth. So, how do you all want to, or how does everyone feel about where public commentary needs to be? Does it need to be, excuse me, at the beginning of the meeting? Does it need to be at the end where, like you said, maybe we make these proposed changes and then the public gets up at the very end and says, hey, that was stupid. You guys should do X, Y, and Z. And we're like, man, I wish we would have known that while we were discussing it. Or do we do like we did tonight where we made a proposed change, it's not final, right? We're gonna hear public commentary, they're gonna get up, and then we're like, oh man, Mr. Walker had a great point with, this is what it should say. And then the next meeting we come back, we update it there. How do you all wanna go about that?
I would ask first, is it our intent when we're creating agendas for future meetings to list out, after the clerk, of course, the section numbers we intend to discuss each meeting? Because if so, then we could have public commentary earlier in the meeting to hear thoughts about each section to help guide our discussion without needing to then do all of what we just did and then potentially change it again afterward. But I will caveat to say, myself included, I can talk for a full 3 minutes in public commentary, and sometimes I don't need to. I don't think for this we need to have such lengthy time. Maybe just 2 minutes, because 3 minutes is quite a bit of time if you get 20 people. I don't think we'll get 20 people per se, but it just seems like we should allow at least 2 minutes, and obviously the chair has the ability to extend that if they wish.
So I think mathematically, if we look at how many meetings that we have, right, and how many sections that we have available, we can have a pretty good starting point of, hey, we're going to look at sections 1 through 4 in the next meeting. Now, with that being said, like I said, there's going to be some sections that we kind of, I don't want to say browse through because we're not, but everybody is in, is in agreement that, hey, the way it's written is fine. So with that, where I'm going with that is that yes, 3 minutes is a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time when one person wants to get up and speak on four separate sections, right?
I'm also not sure if this committee has the authority to change that 3-minute rule, since it's been set by the commission as a policy that should apply to all boards.
Oh, okay.
And they'll probably finish what they want,
Yeah.
whatever they're,
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I don't think we're gonna have 3 minutes times 20 people. I would ask those, as we work through each section like we just did, if we're gonna have public commentary up front, do we just retain public commentary for the very end only? Or do we have to, anytime we have a motion and vote, have to have public commentary again for 3 minutes per person for each vote?
This is up to you. The Sunshine Law requires that public be given an opportunity to comment on any proposition before the board. So I feel like if there has been a motion and a second, there ought to be public comment. If you want to have just a free-for-all, let's get your feedback before we get into the nitty-gritty at the beginning, I think you can. There may be some duplication once you have the actual proposition in front of you, but the Sunshine Law requires it once you have that motion and second.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, and I think that kind of helps with exactly what we're wanting to talk about. That way you don't have just 3 minutes to get up and talk about 4 sections. Well, someone's gonna make a motion for section 21, and someone's gonna second it, and then there's gonna be public commentary, and then we have the ability, just like normal commission meetings, to rescind that motion or whatever.
Point of clarity, if you have a public commentary at the opening of the agenda item, like let's say we had committee discussion, public commentary discussion, if we have any additional committee discussion, then we make a motion and vote, does that satisfy the legal requirement? Or should we only retain the public commentary for after we make the motion?
You can have as much public comment as you want.
But if you do it first, if you do it before the motion, do you still have to do it after? Okay.
Yeah, it's the second one, once there's a
Yeah,
motion on the
that's
table,
right.
is the one that's required.
Yeah. That's just something I've always thought with the commission meetings is like, sometimes you're like, well, they want to change their motion after the public commentary. And it's like, if you had just let them talk beforehand, you would have maybe made a different motion. But now I see why that has to happen that way. So I'm fine with that.
So is everybody, so kind of back to well, is there any more discussion on item number 8?
I don't think we need to have public commentary before the items as we work through them, if we're legally obligated to have discussion on each vote.
Where it's needed, yeah.
So are we good with leaving public commentary as the next to last item on every agenda for every meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to motion this, or is that just, okay.
It's just protocol.
Any more discussion on item number 8? All right, moving on to item number 9, which is public commentary. Is there any public commentary? Yes, ma'am. I think for recording purposes. Thank you.
What y'all are discussing is not very clear because when the city manager was gone and for some reason, the commission did want the assistant city manager to take charge. Only 3 of the commissioners were voting for Chris Lightfoot. And if I had been a commissioner and I didn't have a say in the most important position in the city, I would have problems with it. I still have problems with that. That all 5 of the commissioners should have voted on that. And do you understand what I'm trying to say? That needs to be really clear in the charter. Because, when the police chief was gone, his deputy took over, the deputy chief. And the same thing with the fire department. If he's gone, then the deputy chief takes over. So there's already a setup for that. And either you have to follow that setup and do it for the city manager, that the assistant city manager, until whatever time the commission can meet and vote on that. The entire commission.
Do we have, as a city, an actual order of line of succession in for interim filling? Because this is an interim position right now. So do we have, for example, if we had if the charter had something that said the full commission need be present or shall be present, right? Do we have a succession plan in place as a city?
Not to my knowledge. There is language that suggests that in the absence of a city manager, the deputy city manager serves. But beyond that, no.
So by default, if we had what this member of the public, Michelle Bashir, is suggesting, would we basically be by charter prohibiting the commission from getting business done just because one person or 2 people are not present? I mean, we're at that point, are we delaying it until they call a special meeting or a 2 weeks until the next meeting?
So-
My concern, I don't want to get in the way of the commission
Yes, that's a
doing
legitimate
business.
concern. I think you can also acknowledge the significance of the decision, which I think was also her point, by requiring an extraordinary vote for that appointment. That would require at least
Requiring a what?
an extraordinary vote, a 2/3 approval.
Which it can only be in our commission achieved by 4/5.
That's correct.
Which I guess is for simple terms, is that the same as calling it a super majority? Okay.
Does it really matter if the full commission's here if you got 3 votes?
I
Because they
mean,
would have been outvoted anyways.
if
so-
you say it's a super by
Super majority, it would require
four
four
votes,
yeses.
and so you have to have 4 present to achieve that.
So I think first of all, we're in public commentary and we're not really kind of rewriting or making charter amendments right now. So I think we table our charter amendment discussions until next meeting, and then we hear from the public,
Everyone's here.
and then we adjourn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any next public, Mr. Bashir?
Go first. Couple of things. There's a reason you have a first reading and second reading at commission meetings, because like tonight, sitting out here, you're talking about one of the articles, and we hear you, but we don't see it in writing, we don't understand it, we don't really know what the final version looks like. So if you're gonna publicize, we're gonna discuss section 15 this day, you discuss it, but the next meeting is the one that I'm gonna wanna talk about, because in the minutes, you're gonna have what was discussed and what it looks like. So you need to be aware that when you're telling people, hey, we're gonna discuss section 15, probably not gonna approve that until the next one. That's my input on that. The second thing is when you talk about in the absence of, you need to define what that absence is. Does that mean one meeting? They're just not there for one meeting? What does that look like? I mean, just because somebody goes on vacation, hey, let's go approve this while they're out of town. Make sure that you handle that a little bit. I couldn't understand, like I said, I don't think it was 21, on the absence of. It was unclear to me, as y'all described that, whether you were talking about giving the mayor the authority to appoint someone or hire someone, or were you giving the mayor the direction to go out and look at somebody, and then the commission approve that hiring? I didn't know if you were directing the mayor to do the hiring. I didn't understand it, and that's why the second time through might help me a lot on that. If that makes sense? Okay.
So thank you for your public commentary. So where we were going with that is that in an extended absence, and we'll clean that definition of what an absence is. I'm glad you brought that up, because I made a mental note in my head, but again, I forgot about it. The idea behind that is that when there is an extended absence, whether it's due to a car accident or coma or a termination of employment or whatever, we're solely placing the responsibility of the hiring of a department head on the mayor commission, which would then require a vote by the commission to appoint that. So, but I thank you for the first reading, though, advice. Yeah. Ms. Parker?
Yes, so I just want to clarify something about the city clerk. The city clerk and the city manager are separate entities. That city clerk does not go underneath the city manager. They are separate, and that's what they should be. And during our charter review, the previous city manager totally ixnayed that. And I wasn't cool with that, because we really do need a city clerk, okay? Another thing is, public commentary should not be in the forefront. I think it should be in the back, so that we can address what the commission has said, so that we can go back and say, hey, what you just said, this is what I want to talk about. Because otherwise, we have to wait to another 2 weeks in order to get that information. And I think that's wrong. I think it's totally 100% wrong. We should have public commentary at number 7 instead of number 3.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
You don't need Civics 101 and the history of the charter. The charter from 1950, which is the one you're working from, has only been changed once. It has to be changed by referendum. It is not changed by the city attorney. The city attorney corrupted the last one. By way, outside referendum. We're not going to be able to correct what they did in the last group. That was a sham. The last group did not achieve the objective. The last change to the city charter, which was originated in 1950, you've got to remember, the charter is the people's document. It is not the commissioner's document or the city attorney's document. In 1950, they all sat together and they wrote it. And they wrote one thing in it. They decided that if it would be corrupted, it would be corrupted by the city manager. The city manager would become a dictator and would dictate. In the last group of this committee, that's what happened. We sat, and I went to 3 of them, and I had to leave in disgust because the people weren't represented. At the commission meetings, you see that too. We open our mouth. There are 6 people that get up there. Corey, you're one of them. You get up there. Do they listen to you? No, they do not. They did not listen on that first committee group. They established that they would renew the charter, or look at the charter every 5 years. You're 2 years shy of that right now. You give me the impression now you're in a rush to approve this thing for the upcoming election. That shouldn't be your objective. You should be able to go through, like they did, every page, every line, and figure it out and straighten it out. They tried, didn't work. What I'm saying here is you've got to take your time on this. And the people should be involved. Yes, public commentary at the end or the beginning, doesn't matter. Just like the commission meetings, when they go to vote, they have 2 discussions. The group discusses it, they go to the vote, then they go to public commentary on each item. That's where it's at. That's where we can get up in the commission and talk and present it. In the last group, they did that each page. We used to get up and dissect the whole thing. Good.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
is
Walker.
the way you've got to be.
Thank you.
You've got to get the public in this. It's their document.
Yes, sir.
Because when it comes down to the referendum, which they did with the school, the library, they had a referendum that if you voted yes, you really were saying no.
Yes, so we're going to try to keep public commentary to the 3-minute
Yeah.
rule.
So with that said,
And I need to.
people have to be considered
Thanks, Mr.
and
Walker.
you have to listen to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, the election that we're shooting for is in fact 2027.
Yeah, April 2027.
So at least, I mean, I'm not under the understanding that we're trying to rush this at all. 2027 is a pretty far away off.
February 2027 is
Okay.
the
Yeah,
deadline.
I was actually going to bring up, based on his comments after public commentary, and I can at that time, but I mean, I'll wait until after public commentary, but with your permission, I'd like to discuss the agenda after public commentary for the next meeting.
Sure,
briefly,
absolutely.
Unless you'd like to pause now.
No, that's fine. We'll finish public commentary and then we'll discuss the next agenda before we adjourn.
Okay.
Is there any further public commentary?
There's no further.
Yes. Further public.
Further public.
All right.
Keep in mind, the clerk, we already have a clerk. It's in there. However, Ms. Parker, right, Ms. Parker is correct. This is going to be set. You're going to be establishing a director of the group.
So that closes out public commentary. So before we adjourn, just to make sure, we'll kind of open it up for discussion as far as what's going to be on the next agenda. We're creeping up on a couple hours here. Go ahead.
I just want to point out that if you review the first 5 sections, they're very procedural. I don't anticipate having any kind of discussion of items 1 through 5. So I would like to propose that we set the agenda for items 1 through 7. And the reason being 6 and 7 are substantial and related in that they vest the powers of the commission, which is our representative. So I don't want to plan to discuss much more than that, because I think that may take up the whole meeting.
Sorry, did you say 1 through 5?
1 through 7, simply for the fact that items 1 through 5 are non-substantial.
So for the next agenda.
For the next agenda, 1 through 7, considering that 1 through 5 are non-substantial. So I don't think we need votes for agendas, do we?
So we'll plan to discuss, unless there's any objections to that. I think
No, I like
that's a good idea there. 1 through, yes, sir.
Council,
Yes.
any changes to state statutes that would prohibit us on I'm going through the way
No.
Ryan said, okay.
No.
We'll make sure that we haven't been handed by the state.
So we'll discuss, for the next agenda, it'll be items 1 through 7. And then obviously we'll revisit the language in section 21. I believe that we've got a pretty solid start. So that would kind of technically be our first reading, if you will. It'll be in the minutes for the public to review. And then I think the goal of the next meeting would either be to finalize that based on public commentary and then give a motion to approve or whatever, going from there. Is there anything else, city manager, for the next agenda? Is there anything else that we need to be prepared to?
No, sir, but just to clarify, you wanted the job description for the city manager position that was advertised, CJ's current job description, the old version of the charter, pre-2021 update, and then the ability to mirror Amy's computer onto the screen.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yeah,
Does anybody else, do we need anything else? Did we miss any administrative type stuff on that?
pretty thorough.
We're good.
Okay. So I think it's pretty productive, at least. It's a good start. I think we got a pretty diverse group here with backgrounds and stuff. I think we're gonna do some good things here. Obviously with the public input, I think, the more public input, the better. As far as I will address the historical stuff, regarding Mr. Walker's comments, that my request to look at the previous charter is more historical in nature. It's the same reason we study history in school. If we don't know what happened in the past, then we have the potential to repeat that in the future. So we kind of learn from it. But other than that,
Well, the next meeting be on the 26th of November.
December 10th.
December 10th.
December 10th.
it would start in December. Yes, ma'am.
It's the 2nd and 4th, and the 4th Wednesday of November.
Oh, we said it would start in
Starting
December.
December the 10th.
Yeah, it's effective December 10th.
Effective December the 10th.
Thank you.
And our plan is to vote in December to only have, I'm sorry, at our next meeting.
Yeah.
And only have one meeting in December, since our second meeting in December would be Christmas Eve, and I'm not planning. I love you guys, but
No,
Actually, I'm kind of disappointed that y'all don't want to meet on December 21st.
does that answer your question? All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
The meeting is